Wildlife Services predator control gets away with what it gets away with because it's incredibly secretive and few in the American public even know it exists.
Wolves ain't got nobody to protect them. They all alone in this world, you wanna wreck them. So how could you do it, Sarah? Does it make you feel bigger when you pulled the trigger? Sarah Palin, you're worse than Michael Vick. You really make me sick. Ain't got no love for a canine killer. And my heart goes out to all the cute wolves that we now without. Hunting them down in a low-flying plane. They die a slow death as they cry in pain. You offered $150 for the leg of a wolf. Is that the price of life? Is that what it's worth?
We've seen wolf tracks going through the herd several times.
Somebody starts taking your livelihood away from you, you're going to fight to keep it.
Rico, the horrifying slaughter of millions of animals is something we're uncovering tonight. Little Rico, they're animals just like you being slaughtered every day. And guess what? We taxpayers are paying for it. Yeah, the U.S. government is doing it.
It's ineffective, it's inhumane, and it's expensive. Other than that, it's a great idea.
Many farmers consider them a pest. Kangaroos are a protected species. It's an offence to kill them without a licence. Each year, state departments calculate a quota of kangaroos to be shot by the commercial industry. But that quota doesn't account for all the kangaroos killed in the state. Farmers can also apply for the permits to cull kangaroos on their own land when they're deemed a pest.
I can't understand how it is that our snakes are protected. You're not allowed to shoot a snake, but you can go out and knock over 2,000 kangaroos. You can do it as a social activity with all your mates on the back of trucks.
Unbelievable. See all these traps that they've set all over the country, often without warning. Many pets, critics say many pets have been caught in traps, and there's one of them, lost a leg intended for predators, resulting in loss of limbs and even death for our pets. So why is our U.S. government using our tax dollars to wage war on some of the country's most beautiful wild animals?
For a cold-blooded killer, and that's a fact.
Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel here. It's me here, Comrade Lavender here, and today I'm back with another anti-capitalism deep dive YouTube video topic. Today the topic I want to talk about is pure evil. How a federal program unalives wildlife for private capitalism interests, causing an ecocide crisis. The wild animals who suffer because of the animal agricultural industry, deep dive, capitalism, homesteading, ranching, farming, animal agriculture atrocities, biodiversity loss, wildlife conservation. This video is basically how ranchers, farmers, homesteaders, animal agriculture type of thing, and the federal government and authorities are contributing to an ecocide capitalism atrocity crisis. Capitalism is the #1 cause of the climate change crisis, biodiversity loss, and wildlife extinction as a whole. So let's get started in this true crime deep dive anti-capitalism topic. But before we get started, all my YouTube videos related to this topic will be on the screen right now if you'd like to check them out. So let's get started into this anti-capitalism true crime deep dive YouTube video topic. That's a bloodbath. How a federal program kills wildlife for private capitalism interests. The USDA's Wildlife Service Program is holdover from the 1930s when Congress gave the federal government broad authority to kill native wildlife at the request of private landowners. In that era, government-sponsored extermination programs for native wild animals began. Wolves and grizzly bears were common. After the Endangered Species Act was passed in 1973, federal agencies were required to change course and start helping some of those wild animal populations recover from the decline. But today, Wildlife Service employees still kill hundreds of thousands of non-invasive animals a year. Data from the agency shows even species considered threatened under the Endangered Species Act, like grizzly bears, are not exempt from this. So long as livestock or human life are threatened, federal rules allow wildlife services to kill all those animals too. Wildlife conservationist groups and animal advocates have long protested the program, saying the government is killing animals at the request of private livestock owners without first presenting enough evidence to show that the management methods aren't harming the environment. We need to get out of the framework of this colonizer mindset where it's like, kill any carnivores that might be inconvenient or come onto me property. Wildlife Services officials say that with the exception of invasive species, employees only kill wild animals that attack livestock or cause damage, but data obtained by NPR indicates the program often kills native wildlife that didn't kill or injure livestock whatsoever. NPR obtained and digitalized thousands of Wildlife Service work orders from Montana created from 2019 through 2022 and built a database that shows the program's employees frequently killed and unalived native wild animals without evidence of livestock loss. The documents reveal that during these 3 years, employees killed and unalived approximately 11,000 wild animals on Montana properties where no wildlife was recorded as responsible for killing or injuring any livestock. In those cases, only a threat from those animals was logged in the records. The agency frequently used helicopters and planes to shoot large numbers of wild animals at a time. The documents show a method activists consider cruel and scientists say can lead to local eradications. Carter worked for Wildlife Services for 26 years as a trapper and a supervisor of other federal employees in Montana. He said that killing wild animals that weren't known to have caused problems with livestock was common when he worked for Wildlife Services. There was no effort or attempt made to get the specific animal, he said. Essentially, you're shooting a wolf or a coyote because it might kill a sheep or calf next spring. By far, most of the thousands of animals Wildlife Services killed were coyotes, a species native to Montana. At one location, Wildlife Services killed 318 coyotes, the most killed in any single area in Montana over those 3 years, according to the records. The documents did not contain any reports of coyotes killing livestock at that location over the same period of time. The records also indicate that a few livestock producers may have outsized impact on some predator species. Montana is home to approximately 1,100 gray wolves. Over a span of 3 years, Wildlife Services killed 71 wolves at just 5 locations. During the same time, wolves were documented to have harmed 61 cattle and sheep in those areas. Since there are roughly 2.5 million cattle and sheep in Montana, this indicates that 6% of the state's wolf population was killed for predation on just 0.002% of Montana's livestock. Killing a large number of predators in the same place can eradicate them from an area, causing ecocide, said Robert Cabretree, a canine ecologist and founder of the Yellowstone Ecological Research Center, a nonprofit that advocates for evidence-based conservation efforts in Montana. Besides using rifle shots from helicopters and planes to unalive wild animals, Wildlife Services employees also deployed traps, snares, canisters of cyanide planted in the ground, and gunshots from the ground. But shooting from helicopters was the most common method in Montana, records show, and it was efficient. On average, every time Wildlife Service employees flew in a helicopter and killed coyotes, they shot 6 of the animals. Sometimes, however, the results were more drastic. At one location, federal employees shot and killed 61 coyotes in under 4 hours while flying in a helicopter, the documents reveal. M44s, or cyanide bombs, are one of the most horrifying methods the program uses for its indiscriminate killing. These inhumane traps spray sodium cyanide into the faces of unsuspected wildlife, lured by a sweet, scented bait. Any creature or person who pulls on the baited trigger can suffer a torturous poisoning, followed by a slow, agonizing death or severe injury. According to its own data, in 2018, Wildlife Services used M44s to kill over 6,000 animals. The victims were mostly coyotes and foxes, but more than 200 were non-target animals, including people's pets, bears, foxes, opossums, raccoons, and skunks. And in 2017, M44s temporarily blinded a child and killed 3 family dogs in 2 incidents in Ohio and Wyoming. A wolf was also accidentally killed by an M44 in Oregon that year. In response, Idaho has banned M44s on public lands. In 2019, Oregon banned them throughout the state. "That's a bloodbath," said Corlett Atkins, a lawyer who leads the carnivore conservation program at the Center of Biological Diversity. "This just seems like yahoos with rifles, killing everything they see that moves. This colonizer-like mindset. It's horrible to imagine the amount of suffering involved here. It's been scientifically consensus since 1999 that the indiscriminate killing of wildlife is damaging," said Atrine Travis, a professor of environmental studies and director of the Carnivore Coexistence Lab at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. An NPR analysis of those reports shows that Wildlife Services killed more than 370,000 non-invasive animals across the country in the 2023 financial year. Over the past 9 years, Wildlife Services killed 30 threatened grizzly bears and at least 1,500 gray wolves in states where they were otherwise supposed to be protected under the Endangered Species Act, like in Minnesota and Wisconsin. But the reports didn't reveal the names of the livestock owners that use Wildlife Services. That's to protect the privacy of people in the animal agricultural industry, the agency said. Wildlife Services also doesn't disclose in those reports how many wild animals were killed by federal employees on public land. Kangaroos have lived in the same land for 200 million years, far longer than any white colonizer person in that country. The country Australia has only existed under British colonization for only a few hundred years, and since colonization in New South Wales, kangaroo populations have declined by as much as 90%. Since 2000, 42% of identified kangaroo populations in parts of tropical Queensland have undergone an overall decline in abundance and population, according to the CSIRO, yet the Australian government and the animal agriculture industry refers to kangaroos as pests, vermin, a plague, offering licenses to kill them across their native grasslands. 31.5 million kangaroos have been brutally killed over the last decade, based on false claims that kangaroos breed out of control, damage the environment, and become a plague. These killings take place across the country, bringing in up to 90 million Australian dollars annually. A shot in the dark. A report on kangaroo harvesting prepared by a wildlife ecologist found that every year, some 440,000 dependent young kangaroos are either clubbed to death or left to starve to death after their mothers are killed. The Australian government recommends that joeys are killed by blunt force trauma. The code advises how to bludgeon a joey to death too. Regardless of how the kangaroos are killed, at the end of the day, this industry is completely unjust and completely unnecessary. Kangaroos are sentient beings. They are no more of a resource than they are a pest. They are non-human animals who live in harmony with the environment in their own right, not for the sake of humans. Killing native animals for commercial gain and capitalism profits has historically never been sustainable. Native dingoes and other types of dogs, canids, killed by the wool industry, causing ecosystem disruption. In Australia, dingoes are considered a native species and have lived on the continent in the land for as long as 18,000 years. This species is culturally significant for Indigenous peoples and Aboriginal peoples in Australia, with some regarding the dingo as their totem. Dingoes appear in Dreamtime stories and have roamed freely amongst generations of Aboriginal communities, indigenous populations who have coexisted with them. As more natural dingo habitat has been destroyed, largely by the beef cattle and sheep industry, and killed by those profiting from environmental harm, their pack structures have been negatively impacted. As a result, more dingoes have preyed on lambs. In response, the wool industry traps, shoots, and poisons dingoes and native dingoes and their habitat in order to protect profits generated when sheep are shorn and ultimately slaughtered by the meat industry. The Tasmanian tiger was driven to extinction by sheep farmers for the same reasons that dingoes are dying today. The sheep industry killed them along with sheep farmers following claims they were killing sheep without any actual evidence. Dingoes aren't killing most lambs anyways. The sheep industry is, and the farmers are actually killing more lambs than actual dingoes themselves. With their factory farming, capitalism atrocities. Many lambs die in the wool and meat industry, as many as 10 million before they reach a weaning age each year. However, studies including those funded by the sheep industry itself have shown that as little as 0.1% to 8% of lamb deaths are caused by any kind of predation. Not only is killing dingoes cruel and harmful to the ecosystem, it's misguided. The wool industry is not interested in shooting dingoes to protect sheep as individuals, but to protect the commercial capitalism profits brought about by exploiting and slaughtering the sheep themselves. Mountain lions targeted in Santa Monica Mountains and all over the United States, as is their right under state law. The owner of the alpacas that were allegedly unalived by a mountain lion requested a depredation permit from CDFW. Obligated to do so, CDFW then granted them the permit. According to the CDFW spokesman, Steve Gonzalez, the permit allows the property owner to hire a hunter to kill the mountain lion within 10 days, within a radius of 10 miles from the incident. However, Gonzalez says the depredation permit was issued for only one mountain lion, not any particular mountain lion, which means any mountain lion in the area during that time period that the permit is active is fair game and can be killed, whether or not that particular lion was responsible for the killing of the livestock. This detail makes it clear that the goal is not to eliminate any future predation events by one guilty mountain lion, but rather to mitigate the grief and anger experienced by the property landowner. Though they couldn't be more different in wealth and privilege, the Malibu-dwelling alpaca rancher and the mastodite pastoralist have something in common: bloodlust, revenge, hatred, fear. The story is a common one. It plays out in Brazil and Chile, where ranchers lose cattle to mountain lions and jaguars. It plays out in Tajikistan, where farmers lose goats to snow leopards, or in Sweden, where herders lose reindeer to lynxes and wolves. This colonizer mindset of killing native local wildlife has got to stop. Farmers have to stop gaslighting the public, claiming they care about the environment when they deforest the most out of all industries, and also pollute. They're like some of the biggest polluters in the world, This Ecocide has just got to stop,